This is Caring for Kids on News Talk 760 WJR, presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. And here's your host, President and CEO of the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation, Larry Burns.
Well, thank you, Mark, and hello, everyone. Welcome to Caring for Kids for December. Thanks for joining us. Tonight we have a special show in that every topic is regarding mental wellness, mental health, as it relates to what's going on in our community, and also what the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation is doing in our new one of our new focus areas. We're going to start with Dr. Elizabeth Koschmann. She is the program director for the Trails program at the University of Michigan and a new partner of our foundation. Then we also have Gail Urso and Leo Nouhan of the local nonprofit organization known as Kevin Song. We're also partnering with them as well in their conference that they put on each year. And one of our new ambassadors, accomplished magician and keynote speaker, Anthony Grupido. It's all coming up next right here on Caring for Kids on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
It's Caring for Kids with Larry Burns.
Dr. Elizabeth Koschmann is a program director of the Trails program at the University of Michigan. Dr. Koshmann oversees the delivery of clinical trainings for community mental health clinicians and school professionals, design, development, and production of clinical and training materials, among an array of other things. Her clinical expertise is in the treatment of emotional and behavioral health conditions in youth using evidence-based cognitive behavioral approaches. She has her BA in psychology from Wesleyan University and a PhD in psychology from the University of Wisconsin at Madison. Dr. Koshmann, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We're delighted to have you. And for those of our listeners that are not familiar with what we're referring as Trails, tell us a little bit about the acronym, what it stands for, the department at the University of Michigan, and sort of get us started on what this is all about.
So TRAILS is an acronym that stands for Transforming Research into Action to Improve the Lives of Students. And the acronym was developed actually after we had started our partnership with a number of high schools in Washtenaw County. And those high schools had come to the Depression Center at the University of Michigan to request our help and support after they had experienced a particularly difficult year in about 2012, when they were just feeling an overwhelming need of students that were experiencing depression, anxiety, and the impact of exposure to traumatic events in their lives. And the school staff just felt that they really were not able to respond to the needs of their students, both due to the complexity of the needs the kids were experiencing and the volume of kids presenting with significant difficulty sort of being in school, being present, staying engaged, and staying safe.
And so your role as program director of Trails, what exactly are you doing for the program as it evolves?
Well, in the very beginning, I did everything. It was myself, a faculty mentor, Dr. Kate Fitzgerald, a colleague, Dr. Jim Abelson. Both of those were senior faculty who were supporting my career development and encouraged the start of this program, and a work-study student who was an undergrad double major in psychology and statistics. And mostly it was the work-study student and myself thinking about what was our goal, what was our mission, and I would go out and deliver trainings to our school partners, and then I would assist those school partners with delivering skills grounded in evidence-based practice to their students experiencing symptoms of mental illness. And the work-study student would help me enter data and collect data to sort of monitor and evaluate the impact of our partnership with the schools. Since that time, our team has grown to about 40 faculty and staff. Huh. So my role is to help guide the vision and direction of the Trails program, make sure that any of the work that we're doing with our community partners is grounded in empirically based treatments and supports for kids impacted by mental illness, I think about sustainability and sort of strategic growth to make sure that we don't grow too fast, too quickly, and to make sure that all of the work we're doing is really responsive to what our community partners need. We don't want to grow in a direction that's beneficial to a research mission unless that research mission is responding to what we hear from our partners as a needed support and needed help.
Excellent. A great partnership indeed. And we're talking with Dr. Elizabeth Koschmann, who's a program director for TRAILS, a program out of the University of Michigan. And we mentioned earlier on about cognitive behavioral therapy and why it's so effective for treating mental illness. Can you talk a little bit more about what that exactly means?
Sure. So when we work with our schools, we're really aware that school administrators, principals, and superintendents don't want to be in the business of providing therapy to kids. That's the job of outpatient mental health providers, psychologists, community-based clinics. But cognitive behavioral therapy, even though it has the word therapy in it, is really a set of skills. And when we look at what causes kids difficulty, it's not the way they think and it's not the way they feel, it is their behavior. So kids get in trouble when they're impulsive, when they're reactionary, or when they're just really shut down and their mood causes them to stay in bed, to not be able to get to school, to not be able to engage in the classroom, or to not be able to interact with their peers in a way that's developmentally appropriate. And CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is a set of skills that has kids slow down and examine their cognitions or thinking, their feelings, and their behaviors, and the relationship between those three components, so that a kid can notice when their thinking is maybe irrational or illogical or hopeless or helpless, and then they can use some of the skills to interrupt that thinking or those thinking patterns and link that new, improved thinking to better behavioral decisions and to feeling better emotionally. So CBT doesn't have to look like therapy the way we picture a psychologist sitting back in their chair, sort of pondering how their patient is doing. CBT is really just a set of effective strategies for dealing with everyday stressors and challenges and difficult situations. But it also is grounded in really the best research that has examined what is impactful for kids who are experiencing true mental illness like depression, anxiety, or post-traumatic stress disorder.
Great explanation. And so the TRAILS program is school-based, as you explained, and why being located inside the schools, why is that so important as it relates to being outside of the classroom or outside of school? And then sort of a follow-up question with that. Within the schools and within the program, what kind of trends are you seeing with young people? And we read a lot about new mental health behavioral issues evolving in early childhood, and are there certain trends that our listeners want to hear about?
Yeah, so if you're a parent and you've experienced having a child that is struggling with everyday stress and pressure or with a more significant mental illness, you are probably already very familiar with the many, many barriers to getting high-quality care. So even as a faculty member in the Department of Psychiatry, I often struggle to help make a referral to an outpatient clinician or a therapist or a service in the community that a family can access due to challenges of either a long wait list or an insurance barrier where insurance won't cover the service. And many people can't afford the very high out-of-pocket expense of outpatient therapy. And also there's a huge social stigma among a lot of different parts of our population that prevent many people from seeking help at a clinic. And yet we have kids that are showing up every day at school, walking into the office of their school social worker, psychologist, nurse, or sometimes just their school counselor, and bringing those challenges that are related to their emotional well-being to those school professionals. So TRAILS is really designed to improve access to high-quality care. We want to train the people that kids access already in the practices that we know will help them. So that's why we picked the school setting.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And as our foundation gets more and more involved in mental health programs, it clearly we see that there's a lack of not only professionals for people to see, but the waiting time and the insurance issues are a big problem that hopefully over time we can help solve. And so tell our audience, you mentioned about the partnerships, and we're a partner at the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation, and talk a little bit about what that partnership is, and maybe mention a few other partners as it relates to advancing the mission of Trails.
Sure. Well, we are so incredibly grateful for the support that we get from many foundations across Michigan, but certainly the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation has been a significant partner. We were really fortunate to partner with the Ethel and James Flynn Foundation, and we have a close partnership with Andrea Cole, who helps lead that organization. And her organization, the Flynn Foundation, has already supported a pilot project here in Washtenaw County, where we work to embed the Trails program as well as two of our partner programs that provide stigma reduction and education and awareness programming, as well as suicide risk identification and reduction programming in our middle schools. So the Flynn Foundation, in our middle and high schools, I should say. So the Flynn Foundation has supported that pilot work in Washtenaw County, and after a year of really successfully partnering with our local school district, the Flynn Foundation offered to be a champion of a number of organizations and foundations in Southeast Michigan to help us connect with and partner with the Detroit Public Schools Community District. So the Children's Hospital Foundation helped us connect with that district, and now we are in our first year of outlining a partnership where over the next couple of years we hope to assist that district in thinking about what is the state of behavioral health care programming for their students, who are the partners at the table, so local behavioral health care providers. For example, the Detroit Wayne Mental Health Authority oversees a lot of delivery of behavioral health care services in the city. And we want to look at what programs are serving those kids, where are there gaps in services, and how can Trails help to design a full array of services from kindergarten through 12th grade that would help their students arrive at school emotionally and behaviorally ready to benefit from their academic program.
Great. Well, we also partner with Andrea and the Flynn Foundation, and I believe she was the individual who introduced us to the Trails program, and we're delighted about that. So we'll keep in touch, and we'll have you back as the Trails program progresses, so our listeners can find out the great work that you continue to do. So, Dr. Koshmann, I want to thank you very much for being on Caring for Kids, and more importantly, for all the work you're doing in the Trails program.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Wonderful. Happy holidays.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. And coming up next, we'll hear from Gail Urso and Leo Nouhan of the charitable organization Kevin's Song when Caring for Kids continues, right here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR, presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation.
Welcome back, everyone. Larry Burns here on Caring for Kids. Special edition tonight. Everything is about mental wellness, mental health. And in the studio, I'm delighted to be joined by Gail Urso. Gail is the vice president and co-founder of Kevin's Song, a charitable organization in her late son's honor, Kevin, dedicated to generating public awareness about the causes of suicide, its prevalence in our society, and most importantly, possible preventative measures. And then Leo Nouhan is a healthcare attorney in his Metro Detroit law office. Leo Nouhan and Associates. He is also an executive board member of Kevin's Song, helping advance the mission and purpose of the organization within the community. And I've had the privilege of working with them the last couple of years as a sponsor of the annual conference. And so I wanted to spread the word about Kevin's Song on WJR and Caring for Kids. So Gail and Leo, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Thank you, Larry.
Delighted to have you here. And Gail, we'll start with you. For those of our listeners who aren't familiar with Kevin's Song and Kevin's story and the organization, why don't you tell us a little bit about all of this?
I'd be happy to. We lost our son, Kevin, to suicide in 2013. He was 41 at the time and lived in Florida. Kevin is the oldest of 3 boys. His sudden death by suicide was a complete shock to us. Although he had suffered from, we knew, some depression, we just had no idea that suicide was a possibility. And after Kevin's death, we were surprised to find out that there are many organizations, nonprofit organizations, that work to prevent suicide. There are universities that are studying the causes of suicide. There are many experts across the globe. There are hundreds of books that have been written on suicide and for survivors of suicide. All of which we were just so surprised by, because we consider ourselves fairly informed people, and we had no idea. In the course of the months after Kevin died, we read, there was an article in Newsweek magazine. The cover story was called The Suicide Epidemic. And we were astonished to learn that in that year, 2013, they projected that 41,000 people across the country would die of suicide. And we thought, if we didn't know this, there must be many other people that don't know. So that was when we thought we wanted to take some of this energy we had and do something positive with it. And so we formed Kevin Song, and we were looking at it as a way of educating the community. Now we use the term empowering the community, which is really what our mission is, to prevent suicides. And that included learning the signs of someone who might have suicidal ideation. What do you do? Who is at risk? We knew none of that. And so we decided to create a film and have a conference. And this was in 2013. We actually got our 501c3 status in 2014 and immediately began planning our first conference, which was in April of 2016. These seem like very grandiose ideas for a small organization that had just started. But my husband and I always say we've had a lot of luck, a lot of divine intervention, a lot of great people who have stepped up. And we, the first film we produced, executive produced, was called Death is Not the Answer. And it was directed by Keith Famey. And it was an hour-long film that did air on PBS and has been screened around the city. Then the conference, we wanted to bring together experts that people in this area generally don't get to hear. Most of the national conferences are very expensive, and it's difficult for social workers and teachers and so on, to first responders, to travel long distances and spend a lot of money to hear these experts. So we decided to put together a conference that would allow us to present these people and this latest research to the public and to these specific groups. And we wanted to get publicity to do it because we wanted to be drawing attention to the issue of suicide. It wasn't something most people talked about, so we wanted to be sure it was out there in the public.
Good. Great, and as I mentioned, there's you just completed the 3rd annual conference, and I know Leo is the conference coordinator,
Yes.
And I know it's a lot of work because it's a 3-day conference, which is wonderfully planned with nationally, internationally known speakers. So Leo, tell us a little bit about your role as the conference coordinator.
Well, shortly after Kevin Song was founded, Gail and John approached me, we had worked together on a number of community activities and fundraisers over the years when our kids were at Grosse Pointe South. And Gail thought that I might be interested in assisting with a conference. And at the time, I really didn't have much exposure to suicide, although given the fact that I kind of specialize in mental health legal issues, I was very much aware of some of the obstacles that people confront when it comes to accessing mental health care, and especially as they interface with insurance companies. So it piqued my interest, and John and Gail were good friends, and so I was moved by their story and inspired by what they wanted to do. So I was on board. And it's a lot of work, but it's been very rewarding for me personally. I think I've developed kind of a passion for the cause,
right.
And I appreciate the opportunity to work with Kevin Song.
Good, and we're talking with Gail Urso and Leo Nouhan, who are involved with Kevin Song. And Gail, tell us a little bit about what you hope over the next year, 2, 3 years that Kevin Song evolves into, and some of the new initiatives that you're looking to do.
Well, we have been very inspired and excited by different initiatives that have come along. Our conference will continue to be our main focus, because one of the things I didn't mention that I would like to is that with the conference, we bring together not only these experts, but we bring together all of these organizations who work in our communities, and they network, and people who come have access to those resources as well. So going forward, the conference will continue to be a very big thing. In addition, we have an initiative called With One Voice. We have an initiative, School Summit, which we're very excited about, and we can go into those in depth. We hope to do specific trainings of groups. For instance, clergy, we're having a discussion about training clergy. What we have found, Larry, is that very few people are trained to know the signs of suicide and what to do, whether it's teachers, clergy, general practitioners, first responders. No one gets a course.
Well, that is certainly what we have found in our new path as more of a community foundation for children, and mental health being a focus area. And so you mentioned that bringing people together at your conference, that is so true. I had the honor of speaking, so thank you very much. But since then, I've been contacted by 3 or 4 professionals and community-based people who were there that wanted to talk more about it, evolving with the foundation, and so thank you for that. As you know, we're going to have a mental health conference at the Inn at St. John's because we loved it so much. And we're going to have that in May of 2019, May 14th, actually. So it'll be including suicide, but other mental health issues as it relates to kids, adolescents, and young adults. And so we hope that you're involved in that, and certainly will attend. And so, Leo, you mentioned that your legal practice has a fair amount of mental health in that. And one of the things I have found in this new journey for our foundation is even once mental health might be identified, it's just so hard to navigate not only finding the resources in the medical field, but also then the insurance field. So is there anything you'd like our listeners to know about that journey, and some advice that you might give them?
Well, I think a couple of things, Larry. First of all, we should be proud as residents of Michigan that we have a phenomenal community mental health system. That mental health services that are available for people that are underserved are excellent. And there's excellent care out there, and there's excellent accessibility. I wish I could say the same about people that have private insurance, because unfortunately, there aren't enough therapists, there aren't enough mental health professionals, and insurance companies, I think, sometimes struggle with dealing with mental health. And I would just recommend to parents and loved ones who who have people in their lives that are struggling with mental health issues, not to take no as the final solution,
Right.
that there are appeal procedures and they should always appeal, and they should really try to understand how their policy works and pursue those avenues, because a lot of times criteria is used that may not be appropriate for a given situation. And so you have to be tenacious, you have to be steadfast in your pursuit of coverage, and it's really important to the people that we love that we do everything that we can to help them navigate the waters of healthcare.
Yeah, so great advice, and that pathway is don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't ever give up. So, Gail, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, I know we have listeners out there that are aware of Kevin's song, and maybe now for the first time they know more about it. How can they learn more about Kevin's song and possibly get involved? What's the best way to do that?
Well, I would definitely recommend that they go to our website, which is kevinsong.org. That has all the contact information, but it also has a lot of information about different events that we sponsor and people who are involved. And we also have a very, very dynamic Facebook page for Kevin's Song, which daily has excellent articles on mental health issues. And we also post the activities of our associated nonprofits. And, for instance, we'll put information up about your event. So
Thank you.
I would say that the Facebook page is the most dynamic,
Okay, Facebook
always
page.
changing.
Yes.
It's Kevin's Song on Facebook.
Okay.
We have a Twitter account. We have an Instagram account.
Right. You're all over the place.
We're all over the place.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you both for being on Caring for Kids, and even more importantly for what you're doing to spread the word about preventative measures for suicide, early detection, and just so that Kevin's memory lives on forever through Kevin's song and the great work that you're doing. And I personally look forward to continuing to work with you in the years to come and doing some great things together.
Thank you, Larry.
So
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you very much. That was Gail Urso and Leo Nouhan, both of the great organization known as Kevin's Song. And coming up next, we're going to hear from an accomplished magician. Yep, a magician. And a keynote speaker, and that's Anthony Grupido, when Caring for Kids continues right here in the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR.
Welcome back, everybody. Caring for Kids, talking about mental wellness, mental health all show long. And in the studio, we have Anthony Grupido, an accomplished magician and keynote speaker.
Hello.
Hello, Anthony. Anthony has opened for major celebrities. I think he's a major celebrity himself. But such as Impractical Jokers Bill Engvall and America's Got Talent winner Darcy Lynn. Anthony is the youngest member of Oakland County's Elite 40 Under 40 and is called Metro Detroit's Best Magician. As a keynote speaker, Anthony travels around the country to middle and high schools, colleges, and conferences, sharing his own story about overcoming depression and surviving suicide. His presentations are not only motivating, but informative, and he is now a new ambassador for the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation, and he's our newest guest for Caring for Kids. So, Anthony, welcome.
Hello again.
Hello there. So, for people who have not seen your great magic and illusion and haven't heard your story, tell us a little bit about your own story and how magic has become not only how you got interested in it, but how it's become a tool for you to do some very good things.
So maybe start back like where it all started.
Yeah, of course.
Well, in high school, when I went through a tough time dealing with mental illness and suicide, I kind of used magic as a way to reconnect with people, maybe like as like an art therapy kind of way, and started to really kind of dive into magic as a presentation tool and building like a show that would educate people about mental health and suicide prevention. And at the time, I obviously didn't know as much as I do now about it, so I didn't know where it was going to go, but that's that's where it all started from, was personal experiences.
Okay, and what were some of those personal experiences that you'd like to share?
I struggled a lot with self-harm in high school, so that just, cutting is a way to cope with all my stress and a traumatic experience that happened to me in a wrestling incident where I got picked up and slammed on my head, and I damaged my head and tore the rotator cuffs in my shoulders.
Mm-hmm. And so how about the magic part? When did that start evolving?
Well, I started doing magic when I was 5 years old, and I never stopped. I just always kept doing magic. And the original goal was to go to college, get a degree, and then become a magician. But what happened is that I just became a magician instead. Right. And I used it, but I never knew that I could use magic as a educational presentation tool until I got older, maybe around 18.
All right, so we're talking with Anthony Grupido, who's an accomplished magician and keynote speaker, and now an ambassador for our Children's Hospital Michigan Foundation. And tell our listeners a little bit about this new partnership that we have that you and the foundation are working on.
It's been an amazing partnership. Not only have we done a lot with fundraising aspects and just entertainment around at different events, but in the future that we have coming up, we'll be actually sending the presentation, The Magic of Hope, to schools to educate kids about mental health and suicide. And I'm super excited. It's been it's done a lot for me, like personally and online, and I think it's done great things on both sides just to really connect and put a new twist and get people excited about mental health.
So when you go into a school, be it a high school, let's say a high school or a college, and you talk about your experiences and you talk about what's going on in the world of mental wellness, mental health, and then you use magic, what kind of reaction are you getting from students? And do they come up to you and say they're experiencing similar things? And what kind of things have you learned by being in those environments? Yeah,
that's a great question. After the talk, there's a lot of things that happen. The first, I would say that people just kind of line up. Sometimes they line up to talk. Other times the students have to clear naturally. But I always get a student or two after. They do talk to me about similar things. I hear kids as young as sixth grade, 7th grade, talking about self-harm and suicide issues. I've met middle schoolers and high schoolers around the country who are homeless due to their parents being taken away for drug abuse and things like that. So the goal is, when they come up to tell me that, is I tell them, and even in my talk, that I'm not a psychiatrist and I'm not a therapist. So if you come to me and you tell me these things, the first thing I'm going to do is put you in the school counseling office.
Right.
And my last talk, for example, I gave at Kingsley High School. There was a number of about 20 new students that were connected into the counseling office an hour after the talk. So the goal is that they come to me. If they open up about anything, they will go straight to the school counselor. But most of the times, they will go from that presentation to the school counseling office. That's the whole point, is to connect them to a counselor.
So you're that liaison between what you experienced and then where they need to go to try to get some help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. So what do you hope to accomplish both in your magician career as well as this relatively new role of being an ambassador, not only for our foundation, but for really the community at large as it relates to mental health? What are you hoping to do in the next 5-10 years?
I want to see a lot of change, especially in the school districts with mental health. I think to build some kind of platform between myself and the foundation to really just put a positive face in the world of entertainment. I think we have so much negative role models that all they do is talk about sex and drugs and things like that. And I think what we need is, people to say, hey, like, it's okay not to be okay, to encourage that mental health it's not a weakness, that it's something that's we're able to talk about.
Well, it's a disease and it's treatable, just like having a heart problem or cancer or something.
Exactly, and more people need to know that. But I think that what I would most like to do as a magician, I want to just keep using magic to educate. And I think with a foundation between what I've built and what you guys have obviously done so great with, is to really change the community. We still have school administrations that believe that talking about suicide increases contagion, so they don't put any mental health curriculums into their school. They don't talk about it, and it's an issue that I deal with when I get calls every single year from these schools. So,
well, you're doing great work. And so we look forward to working with you in the future, and we have some great things coming up in 2019. And so I know you're also hopefully going to connect with Kevin Song, because we had Gail and Leo on the show. And so part of this show is to bring folks together so we can do more together. So, Anthony, thank you. Anthony Grupido, accomplished magician and keynote speaker and an ambassador of our foundation. Don't go anywhere because we're going to cover a couple of events coming up for the foundation. And even more important than that, we're going to recognize this month's Little Champion of the Game. And that's sponsored by Northwestern Mutual. And that's all coming up next, right here on Caring for Kids, on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR. Okay, that was a great show tonight, all about mental wellness, mental health. And our foundation is, hopefully our listeners now know, are really focusing on what we can support as it relates to childhood, adolescent, young adult mental health issues. More to come on that from this foundation, indeed. And so I want to mention that in January is our biggest event of the year, and that's the Detroit Auto Dealers Association Charity Preview. And we are honored and delighted to continue to be one of the charities that receives funding from that. So I want to thank the auto dealers for the great work that they do and allow us to continue our journey as a community foundation for children. So hopefully I'll see a lot of you out at the charity preview. And now, even more important than that, is to honor one of our little champions. Our little champions is now brought to you by Northwestern Mutual, and we're very grateful for all the great work and support they provide the foundation. And our Little Champion program honors children who have overcome major obstacles in their young lives, and they continue to tackle those challenges with a smile each and every day. And for December, the Little Champion is 12-year-old Bryson from Pontiac, Michigan. Bryson has suffered with severe eczema and multiple food and environmental allergies since birth, while also managing hypertension, which he developed at just 8 years old. But despite such challenging circumstances, Bryson has maintained excellent grades. He's excelled in all of his extracurricular activities, including sports. He plays the piano and continues to smile every day. His strength, his faith, and fortitude in the eye of constant pain is an inspiration for all of us. And so congratulations, Bryson, this month's Northwestern Mutual's Little Champion. For more information on the Little Champion program and how you can nominate a child, it's real easy. Visit chmfoundation.org/champion. So I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a great New Year, and I'll see you next year. Thank you.
Caring for Kids on WJR has been presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation.